The restaurant's candlelight flickered across the wrong table before Mark Thompson even knew he was lost. He stood in the doorway of Le Papillon, clutching a single wilted rose he'd bought from a street vendor for $3, his shoes still dusted with drywall from the construction site he'd left an hour earlier. The hostess, sleek in black, scanned her tablet. Reservation? Thompson. Table for 2. Blind date. She pointed vaguely toward the back. Enjoy. Mark shuffled past linen tablecloths and glittering wineglasses, past couples who looked like they'd never worried about rent. He spotted a table with a single red rose in a bud vase, his signal, the dating app had said. He slid into the chair opposite a woman whose back was turned, her dark hair twisted into an elegant knot. "Hi," he said, voice cracking like a teenager's. "I'm Mark. You must be Sarah?" The woman turned. Ice blue eyes, diamond studs that probably cost more than his truck, and a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm not Sarah," she said. "I'm Victoria Langford." Mark's stomach dropped through the floor. Victoria Langford, CEO of Langford Enterprises, the company that had just bought the crumbling apartment complex where he and his daughter lived. The woman who could evict them with a signature. I'm so sorry," he stammered, half standing. "Wrong table. My date." "Sit," Victoria said, not a request. "You look like you're about to bolt, and I hate eating alone." He sat. The waiter appeared, filling her glass with something that cost more than Mark made in a day. Mark's hands shook as he set the wilted rose on the table like evidence. Victoria eyed it. "Romantic. It's all I could afford," he muttered. She laughed, not cruel, but surprised, like she'd forgotten laughter was an option. Across the room, the real Sarah, blonde, bubbly, 25, waited at the correct table, checking her phone. She'd matched with Mark, 38, single dad, loves hiking and bad puns. She had no idea her date was currently spilling his life story to the most powerful woman in the city. Mark didn't mean to talk. He meant to excuse himself, find Sarah, salvage the night. But Victoria asked, "So, what's a guy with a $3 rose doing in a place like this?" And something in him snapped. "My daughter's school is raising money for a field trip," he said. "I'm a widower. I work construction. My truck's on its last leg. The dating app said dress nice, so I wore the only button-down I own that doesn't have paint on it. And I'm sitting here because I'm terrified of raising a 12-year-old alone, and I thought maybe someone out there wouldn't mind a guy who can't afford daycare." Victoria's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Mark kept going. "I'm sorry. That was a lot. I'll go." He stood. Victoria's hand shot out, closing around his wrist. Her grip was firm, manicured nails pressing into his skin. "Stay," she said quietly. "Please." Sarah, meanwhile, had given up. She left a note for the waiter, "Tell Mark I waited 20 minutes, and walked out into the rain." Mark and Victoria talked for 3 hours. He told her about Lily, how she still set a place for her mom at dinner, how she'd started stealing his work boots because they made her feel tall like daddy. He told her about the eviction notice taped to their door last week, how he'd hidden it in his toolbox so Lily wouldn't see. Victoria listened. She didn't interrupt with solutions or platitudes. She asked questions. What was Lily's favorite subject? Science. Did she like dogs? She wanted one named Pickles. When Mark admitted he hadn't taken a vacation in 6 years, Victoria's eyes softened in a way no boardroom ever saw. Then she told him about her own daughter, Clara, 16, shipped off to boarding school in Switzerland because Victoria's schedule was unforgiving. About the divorce that left her with a penthouse and a child who called her Victoria instead of a mom. About the night she'd fallen asleep at her desk and woken to find Clara had left a sticky note on her computer, "I miss you." I thought success meant never needing anyone, Victoria said, swirling the last of her wine. Turns out it just means eating alone in better restaurants. Mark laughed, a rusty sound. I eat alone with a kid who talks through her entire meal. Same difference. The waiter brought the check. Victoria reached for it. Mark's hand covered hers. I can't let you. You're not letting me do anything, she said. I'm choosing. He pulled out a crumpled 20 and a 10. This is literally all I have until Friday. Victoria stared at the bills, then at him. You're insane. Probably. Outside, the rain had stopped. Mark walked her to her town car. The driver held an umbrella he didn't need. This was not what I expected, Victoria said. Same. Mark shifted. I should find Sarah. Explain. Victoria handed him a business card. Black, heavy stock, her name in gold. Call me when you do. I'd like to meet Lily. Mark blinked. You're serious. Deadly. He watched the car disappear, then realized he'd left the wilted rose on the table. The next morning, Lily bounded into the kitchen, backpack swinging. Dad, you're smiling. Did the date go okay? Mark poured cereal. It went, weird. Good weird. Weird how? I sat at the wrong table. Lily grinned. Classic dad move. At 10:17 a.m., his phone buzzed. Unknown number. It's Victoria. Lunch today? I have a proposition, asterisk. He stared at the screen until Lily snatched it. Whoa, Dad. Langford Enterprises? That's the lady who owns our building. Mark took the phone back. Yeah. About that. Lunch was at a diner, not Le Papillon. Victoria wore jeans and a blazer, hair in a ponytail. She looked human. I'm not evicting anyone, she said before he could speak. I looked at the file this morning. The complex is a mess. Leaks, mold, outdated wiring. I'm shutting it down for renovations. Mark's heart stopped. We have nowhere to go. You'll stay in one of my corporate apartments. Rent-free until the work's done. Then you can move back at the same rate, or lower, if I decide to subsidize. He opened his mouth. Closed it. There's a catch, she said. I want to hire you. I'm a framer, not to oversee the renovation. You know the building. You live there. You'll catch what my architects miss. And, she hesitated. Clara's coming home next week. She's struggling. I thought maybe Lily could show her around. Be a friend. Mark laughed, a disbelieving sound. You want my kid to babysit yours? I want them to be kids together. I never learned how. That afternoon, Mark picked Lily up from school. She took one look at his face and said, "What did you do?" "Got us a new apartment. And a job. And a friend for you." Lily's eyes widened. Is she rich? Filthy. Does she have a pool? Probably. The corporate apartment was on the 23rd floor, with a view of the river and a kitchen bigger than their old living room. Lily ran from room to room, shrieking. Mark stood on the balcony, gripping the railing, afraid to believe it. Clara arrived 3 days later, all black eyeliner and attitude. Lily took one look and said, "Your shoes are cool. Want to see the rooftop?" Clara blinked. There's a rooftop? Duh. Victoria and Mark watched from the lobby as the girls disappeared into the elevator. She's never had a friend who wasn't paid to be there, Victoria said quietly. Lily collects strays. She'll adopt her. The renovation began. Mark worked 12-hour days, but now he had a hard hat with his name on it and a crew that listened when he spoke. Victoria showed up unannounced, coffee in hand, asking questions about load-bearing walls and why the third-floor hallway smelled like old socks. One night, after the girls had fallen asleep mid-movie, Mark found Victoria in the kitchen, staring at a burnt batch of cookies. "I followed the recipe," she said, horrified. Mark took the tray, scraped the charcoal into the trash. "Lily likes the edges crispy. You're golden." She laughed, then cried, silent, shoulders shaking. He hesitated, then pulled her into a hug. She smelled like vanilla and sawdust. Weeks turned into months. The complex transformed: new windows, fresh paint, a community garden where Mrs. Alvarez from 2B grew tomatoes the size of softballs. Lily and Clara became inseparable: sleepovers, science fairs, a joint TikTok account that terrified both parents. One evening, Mark and Victoria sat on the rooftop, city lights sprawling below. "I used to think success was a corner office," she said. "Turns out it's a kid who calls you Dad even when you burn dinner." Mark nudged her shoulder. "I used to think love was a woman who'd never leave. Turns out it's two girls arguing over who gets the top bunk." Victoria turned to him. "What are we doing, Mark?" "Whatever this is," he said, "it started with a wrong table." He kissed her then, slow and certain. She kissed him back like someone learning how. 6 months later, Le Papillon hosted a grand reopening party for the renovated complex. Residents mingled with executives. Lily and Clara wore matching dresses, Lily's idea, Clara's reluctant agreement. Mark stood at the podium, nervous in a new suit Victoria had insisted on. "I sat at the wrong table," he began. "And found the right life." The crowd cheered. Victoria caught his eye, smiling like she'd won something bigger than a merger. Later, under string lights in the new courtyard, Lily tugged Mark's sleeve. "Dad, can we keep her?" Victoria overheard, raised an eyebrow. "I'm not a stray cat." Lily grinned. "You kind of are. But you're ours." Mark looked at the two girls, at the woman beside him, at the home they'd built from mistakes and second chances. "Yeah," he said. "We're keeping her." If this story of wrong tables and right hearts moved you, hit that like button. It's the digital equivalent of passing the wilted rose. Subscribe for more tales of ordinary people finding extraordinary love, and turn on notifications so you never miss the moment someone sits where they're meant to be. See you in the next one.